So how many desktop developers in here? How many people have built desktop applications? Quite a few of you. Great. We have heard from you all that you want us to make it better for you to be able to build and deploy and distribute your applications to your users without messing up their machines. And so one of the things that we've done is we've come up with this Project Centennial, and a few of the reasons behind that. Like, how many of you, just by show of hands here, have had an incomplete uninstall on your PC? I know everybody else's hand should be up. I understand. We also hear lots of different things, PC registry bloat, the issue with an installer that's not necessarily trustworthy. That thing happens from time to time. DLL hell, distribution visibility, being able to find the actual packages that you want to distribute. And of course, no access to a lot or most of the UWP APIs. These are all things that you have pointed out as issues with desktop development today. It really felt like kind of two different modes of development. So what we've done is we've come up with a couple of different pieces here. The first of which is the desktop app converter. And what the desktop app converter does is it runs your application's existing installer as it is. You don't need to change anything. It runs the existing installer in a type of a container specific to what we're doing here and listens to all the things that it does, right? And then it creates an Apex from that installer. And that Apex includes a lot of the virtualized access and whatnot we'll talk about here in a moment. Once you've got an app in an Apex and it has an identity, you can then update that app, if you will, and start to look at different ways that you can integrate additional UWP functionality in there. And then, of course, you can publish and distribute it using the single-click Apex installer. So I'm going to just show you the desktop converter starting here quickly. We're not going to sit through it and watch it complete until afterwards, but I'm going to kick it off so you can see what happens here. So right now, the UI for this is basically PowerShell scripts. We're looking at other ways that will integrate this, but for now, all I need to do is I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to run with PowerShell. Wow, that was really loud. Sorry, folks. Wake you up, right? And what this is doing right now is it's running the installer for a Media Center Classic Media Player Classic application that we're going to use here as the example for the rest of this. And again, this runs through and it takes a little bit to go. So let me go back to the slides for a second and explain a few of the other things that we're doing before we come back to this. The really important thing here is we make it easy for you to support both new and old customers, Windows 10 and Windows 7 devices. So you could take your existing application, again, no changes at all, run it through the desktop app converter. The Apex runs on Windows 10. Your existing installer is what you'll use on Windows 7 and other operating systems before Windows 10, and we don't require you to change anything with that. The Windows 10 version will have the clean install and uninstall, virtualized some of the key I/O, user safety promises that you would expect from running from an Apex, as well as virtualized registry access, which we'll talk about here in a second. We virtualize into a file that's local to the application, HKey current user, into a registry DAT file. And then the app data folder is also virtualized there. So when your application is running installed via an Apex that was run through the desktop app converter here, those automatically happen without you writing anything in your application, right? And then again, that same application is going to run on Windows 7 as is. Now, that's only part of the benefit. I think clean uninstall and clean install and a user safety promise is super important. But at the same time, you might want your desktop application to be able to light up on Windows 10. There are some UWP APIs that you can use from Win32 today, but you can't use APIs that require an application identity. Like if that application has to have a package identity understood by Windows 10, you can't use those APIs. But now today, if you run your application through the desktop app converter, your application gets that identity, and you can access things like Cortana and Live Tiles and the store and camera and devices and more. You remember the demo I did this morning? We had an old application from the 90s. This was Quake 3 Arena. And it was able to have integrated in-app purchase functionality using the Windows 10 APIs because that application now has identity. So let's say you start with your Win32 app as it is today. Again, you can just keep it as is, run it on Windows 7, that's just fine. If you convert the app, you immediately get the deployment benefits and the installer benefits. Again, this is for your desktop applications, WPF, Windows Forms, any Win32 app, Delphi, any of these things that target the Windows desktop today, you can run through there. You can then start using some of the features like monetize it via the Windows Store once we allow you to list those applications in the Windows Store. Then, if you want to add on these additional features, you can add a component to your application that speaks to UWP. And again, you can keep this compartmentalized. You can dynamically load it as appropriate for your application. And that's where you get notifications, et cetera, like we're talking about. If you want to have some of the UWP-style API, you can add a component so that you have both your application and this new component inside the same application package, and you have sort of two different UI mechanisms going on. Or you can move all of the stuff to the UWP APIs for UI, using something like XAML in Windows 10, and then keep all of your business logic and all the rest of the application callable from that. We support both, Windows 10 on the front and the rest of your application on the back, or vice versa, or any kind of mixed mode in between. So let me show you where we ended up with on the installer there, because it looks like that all worked. So we went through and it ran this installer in silent mode. That's one of the requirements, is we need to be able to run the installer in a kind of unintended silent mode. Ran through all that, created the AppX. If I go over here to this AppX 14 folder, here's a Media Player Classic AppX. It is an AppX. You can put this on a website. You can put this on your file share inside your corporation, any place that you need to install. You just double click on it, click install. Takes just a couple of seconds. I can hit launch. And here is the Media Player Classic application. Okay? Now at that point, we didn't do anything special to the application. All right. But if I go now over to my source code, we want to be able to add a live tile. We know that live tiles increase engagement in applications, and there's something that you think of as only available in like a store application or something written with some of the brand new technology we have. You can add that live tile to your existing, in this case, C++ application or .NET application or anything else running on the desktop. So in this case, we have a separate component that is our UWP C++ component that's called from the rest of the application. And this calls out to the Windows 10 UWP APIs. And it uses, you see, notifications and tiles to be able to create a live tile. So if I go back to the application here, in this case, we do already have this kind of baked in. If I say quick open file, and I'm going to play some music, so hopefully this won't be too loud. We'll see here. Let's open that. And then, did you see that live tile switch over right there on that screen? So it's now showing what's currently being played. So if I go, there you go. Straight from a desktop classic C++ application that really knew nothing about Windows 10 before. I would just keep the music playing. It feels like we added a touch of class to the event for the afternoon, so I kind of like that. All right, let me get back over here. There we go. So there are a few things that we'd like you to do. Again, this is fairly early stuff, fairly early bits. It works for most things. It works with a lot of third-party installers that you're using. So go ahead and give that a try with some of the different installers you are. Start by very simply running your installer through the desktop app converter, giving it a whack, and then look at the different ways that you can augment your application to take advantage of features in Windows 10. And if you go to aka.ms/converter, that's our main landing page for that. And of course, we have a feedback forum for that as well. So thank you very much.